Hello, everybody, and welcome to another post-match reaction here on the Italian Football Podcast. My name is Nima Tavallaey, and I will be reacting to Italy beating Estonia away by 3-1 on the same day that Norway won 5-0 at home to all but secure the top spot, which essentially means after today that Italy are going to the playoffs. I think we can safely say that now. They basically have zero less than 1% chance to finish on the top spot, but the playoff position is all but secured, and is secured, and Italy will go into the playoffs to reach the 2026 FIFA World Cup. I'm here to react to the game against Estonia, as I said. It's a strange game in the sense that Moise Kean started together with Raspadori behind Retegui. Moise Kean scored a fantastic goal in the opening minutes, in the 4th minute or 3rd minute, depending on who's reporting it. I've seen it both be reported as 3rd and 4th minute, but on various sites. But regardless of what he did, there was no doubt about what Moise Kean did. It was absolutely world-class, beautiful opening goal by Moise Kean. And he just showed what a class player he is. However, he was substituted off. He was injured. He became injured, rather, I should say. And he came off. But it did. I mean, it wasn't going to hurt Italy's chances. But it is worrying. It was not nice to see him be injured. And go off after he's had a really good season and a half now. All of last season was fantastic with Fiorentina. Hopefully it's not a serious injury, but it didn't look good. He was limping visibly. Haven't seen any early reports so far whilst I'm at the time of recording this, so I am very, very concerned, and I hope that it's nothing serious, because the last thing Italy need is an injury on Moise Kean, who's been outstanding. Some would even argue, as Carlo did on the pod last week, that if you take away Thuram and Lautaro, he's the best striker in the Serie A. And there are many who believe that. I'm not entirely convinced, but just the fact that there is that discussion shows you what a quality player he is and how good he has been the last year or two for Italy. But if we are to disregard Moise Kean, who was again assisted by Di Marco, who continues to get points on the board, makes assists and goals in a fantastic start to the season for him. But if we are to talk about the first half after Kean opened the scoring, he had to come off only 15 minutes later. But as I've mentioned already, and on came Francesco Pio Esposito, which we're going to talk about in a little bit later, of course, given what he did. But then Mateo Retegui won a penalty, very clumsy challenge. Yes, Retegui made the most of it, but the contact is there. The referee doesn't have a choice but to give that penalty. There's not much to talk about. But we have to talk about, again, this ridiculous hop, skip, woke penalty bollocks. I'm sorry for swearing and using that language, but this has to stop. How many times do players do this? Do we have to watch players do this absolute nonsense, hop skip nonsense, trying to trying to wrong foot the goalkeeper? They've read it. The goalkeepers have read it. The element of surprise is gone. Okay, they know that it's coming, so they're going to wait you out, and they're not going to commit themselves. So stop doing this nonsense. And of course, it was saved. And it just drives me insane. Just put your laces through it, son. Do you know what I mean? Brexit penalties all the way. Give us our penalties back. Stop with the woke penalties and all that stuff that we joke about on the pod. But seriously, enough of this nonsense. Put your laces through it. Top corner. The goalkeeper can't save it if it's in the top corner. There's lots of statistics on that. There is an 80% chance to score, and most of them, if you put them in either the right or left top corner, it will go in. So better risk it that way than this hop skip nonsense, but which is just so frustrating to watch. But a couple of minutes later, after that, of course, Retegui made amends when Orsolini played a lovely ball and he finished it, and he doubled Italy's lead. And that's how the half ended. And I don't want to make this about Francesco Pio Esposito as such, but he will be the main subject matter that everyone talks about, because the fact that he came on for Ken, Moise Kean, and I was a little bit thinking, not that I was doubting his ability, but I was thinking, how well will he work with Retegui? Because they are, in terms of characteristics, very similar, in the sense that they are two prima punta, two strikers, two big guys, two aerially strong guys, two physically strong guys, who are good with their backs against the goal. I was a little bit worried that they might have run into the same spaces, and I think we saw some of that. But given how mobile both of them are, and especially Francesco Pio Esposito, this didn't turn out to be that big of a problem. Granted, the opposition is not exactly the best in the world, or in Europe for that matter, but regardless, it was nice to see that Esposito and Retegui could play together, at least to some extent. In the second half, of course, Raspadori missed a sitter, and he didn't have perhaps the best games. But we're gonna have to. It's the Pio Esposito show, and we have to talk about him. I mean, he scores his first goal for the senior team. I remember saying on this pod about a year ago, when asked, I think it was on a Q&A episode, or just a regular Monday episode, where we were speaking about players that were coming up and coming, and I said Francesco Pio Esposito is the only player of the brother trio that I rate, and I think that he has the talent to perhaps one day play for Italy. I did not, in my wildest dreams, predict that he would be here, that I would be sitting here 1 year later talking about him scoring his first goal for the Azzurri. The trajectory and step upwards that this kid has had in 12 months. Let's remember where he was 12 months ago. He was in his second season at Spezia, having spent the first season on loan, having been named the Serie B Player of the Year, having opened all of our eyes to him. And we were just starting that season, and he started that season by going to the gym and playing and training and putting on 10 to 12 kilos of muscle, losing none of his dynamism, losing none of his mobility, and just looking like a monster in front of goal. And again, tonight, wonderful finish, wonderful play by Barella, great cross by Spinazzola, and a one-time finish. This is the thing. He is an assassin. He is a classic prima punta. He's a classic Italian number 9. But he's a killer as well. These one-time finishes, his anticipation, the read, and being able to position his body, knowing when the ball is going to come, knowing when to time his run, knowing when to make a shimmy run so that the run is not blocked by the defender. These are just attributes that he has naturally. And I know things are going really well. I remember I saw his agent just a while ago saying we need to stop, hyping him up. We need to calm him down. And I agree, we should give him some space. We have to let him grow. But when you do the things that he does, people are going to talk about you. And a big part of becoming a top player, a star player, is being able to handle the pressure mentally, as well as, on the pitch, as well as off it, and everything that comes around with sudden fame and as a young person. I think he's got a good support system around him. He comes from a footballing family. The other two brothers are still active footballers. I think he has a good support system around him. I think he might have learned somewhat from the mistakes that his brothers have made. I hope, at least. And also Inter are very, Inter will protect him as well. And his agent seems very, knows that he's got a gem as a client, and he wants to protect him too. So I think he should be all right. At least, if he's the kind of character that he's shown to be so far, and that is a character who is not, these are just small successes along the way, but they are successes. He just continues to be thrown into situations, and he continues to deliver. He scored in the Club World Cup, he scored in the Serie A, and now he scored for Italy. He hasn't scored yet in the Champions League, but I assume that's only a matter of time. And he is, as I said, I said he could potentially be the future of Italian football. Well, the future's already here. He's more than deserves his spot in this team, in this squad. Maybe not start just yet, but he definitely deserves to be in the squad. And tonight he showed once again why. It's wonderful to see. I mean, on the same weekend where we saw Francesco Camarda do a cucchiaio penalty, the little, Panenka chip penalty for the under-21s, his first one for the under-21s, and now he scored for every single Italy national team at youth level, which is an insane stat as well, on top of the gajillion goals he scored for Milan and their every single youth team. I mean, let's remember, he's only 17 years old, so he's playing with players that are 2-3 years younger than him, and he's already scored in the Serie A, or he's playing for Lecce. Look, between these two guys, Retegui, I still think Raspadori has a role. Moise Kean, I think it's safe to say that the Italian number 9 striker trauma has ended. None of these players are perhaps world-class players or world beaters, but the trauma, the lack of options is over. Italy has a plethora of options in central defense, and Italy has a plethora of options in attack, in the striker position. That we can now put that safely to bed. There are options there. With Scamacca coming back, there are options there. Finally, a decade-long, if not 15-year-long, trauma to the Italian psyche, in the football psyche, of not being able to produce strikers that are good enough. I think we can safely, based on the options just available of the ones I've mentioned, and will continue to improve if they're allowed to be healthy and not injure themselves. I think we can put an end to that discussion, and that gives me great joy to say, because it's been a horrible decade in that aspect for Italy in terms of strikers. And again, just before I leave you, before I end this is why I watched the Serie B. Had I not watched the Serie B, I wouldn't have known about Sandro Tonali's exploit in Brescia, and what a generational midfielder he was for it from an Italian point of view 3 years before everyone else, because you could see that he was special. I wouldn't have known about Samuele Ricci. I wouldn't have known about Francesco Pio Esposito, and equally, I wouldn't have thought that his other brothers aren't as good as this kid is. Again, watch Serie B. Basically, that's, if you want to take away one thing from this pod, watch Serie B. There's so much you can learn from it. You basically get to read tomorrow's newspapers today when you watch the Serie B, at least when it comes to to Serie A and Italian football. Tomorrow's headlines you read today when you watch the Serie B, and you understand what you're watching, of course. I mean, just watching, you have to understand what you're watching and who you're looking for, and why, and so on, and put it all together and follow the whole storylines. But yeah, watch Serie B. Watch Serie B. That's all I can say. It's a very, very interesting league, and it's produced some Italian gems, and I think it will continue to do so moving forward, because that's where Italian youth get to play. Unfortunately, until we can start, with Francesco Pio Esposito aside and a couple of others, Camarda aside, the pathway to the first teams in the Serie A for most Italian youngsters is closed, unfortunately. But hopefully that changes. I'm going to be optimistic here, because I think we are seeing a shift. I think we're beginning to see a start of a shift, and that makes me really happy. As for the qualifiers itself, look, I think it's safe to say now that Italy are going to finish second. If Italy are going to go to the playoffs, that's the main takeaway now. I'm looking at the table now. There's still a mathematical chance that Italy can finish third, but I think we can. But that possibility will probably be killed off in the coming week in Udine. But regardless, Italy are going to the playoffs. Italy have overcome a really difficult period with a lack of options up front. That's the main takeaways between Esposito, Retegui, Moise Kean, Raspadori, the up-and-coming Camarda, Scamacca coming back from his injury, and who knows who else we'll be talking about. There are other players out there as well, that we can say that the Italian number 9 trauma has now ended, and that is wonderful to see. And I'm really looking forward to see what this group of Italy players can do. Gattuso has really built a team spirit with them. He's not the most tactically astute manager in the world, God bless him, but He is someone who knows how to build a team, a team spirit, people who believe in themselves and each other and fight for the shirt and for the cause. And that's really nice to see. There's team spirit and team unity in this Italy. For what they lack technically and qualitatively, they more than make up, I believe, at least from what we've seen under Gattuso so far, in passion, belief, and desire and hunger for the shirt, for the Azzurri shirt. And that's really important, because I feel that's something that was lost towards the end of Mancini's tenure, and I think we saw none of that under the very unfortunate era when Spalletti was there. Now I think that's back, and it's lovely to see. It's really lovely to see. So we'll have to wait and see what happens moving on, who Italy will play in the playoffs. The more really, I would say, not optimistic but delusional, and I use that term with love and care here, but yeah, to think that Italy will finish top now, beating the remaining teams they have to play with like 10-15 goals each, because Norway have to play 2 more games as well. One is against Italy, one is against, I think it's Estonia or Moldova, I can't remember, but regardless, let's say that they I think it's Moldova. But even if, they're going to score lots of goals there. So even if Italy beat Norway by 2 or 3 goals, they're going to have to beat the other 2 games they've got left, aside from Norway, by 10-15 goals each in order to overcome this ridiculous this ridiculous goal difference. So Norway have won the group. Congratulations to Norway, who continue to just smash in goals left, right, and center. They're going to win the group. They're going to go to the World Cup for the first time in a very, very long time. And Italy are going to the playoffs and hopefully end this ridiculous streak of missing World Cups, which has been surreal to live through. I can tell you that as someone who grew up in the 90s and 80s. But so yeah, good news, decent performance. Not much to talk about. The main talking points are Francesco Pio Esposito. It's Moise Kean in a maybe less positive light, and the overall striker situation in the Italian national team. It's finally, the drought is finally over. With all respect to Ciro Immobile, he was a fantastic goal scorer, but he wasn't a striker who could play. He wasn't a prima punta like these guys are. He wasn't, and that's why he wasn't even for Lazio. He was always in a 2-man attack. That's when he had his greatest period. But so all respect to Ciro Immobile, but this level and this type of player, this type of striker, these characteristics of a striker, Italy have pretty much not had in terms of characteristics, not quality, because they're still young. We have to wait and see. They haven't proven themselves. But this kind of striker, Italy hasn't had since Luca Toni. Very, very bluntly put, Italy hasn't had proper international quality prima punta since Luca Toni, if you ask me. And now it feels that could finally be put to rest after 15-20 years. So that's very positive. So I'm ending this on a very, very positive route, or a note rather. We will be back on Monday for a Q&A episode for all our patrons. Later in the week, we'll be doing a free pod for everyone else, which is going to be I think a Juventus deep dive with with Juventus journalist Romeo Agresti, who's going to do that with Carlo. So make sure to check that out. That's how we're covering. We're covering the international break. We might do something else as well when Italy play next. We'll see what we do there. We haven't decided quite how we're going to do that, but I'm sure we'll do something. So until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Ciao, ciao.